Federal raids across South Florida expose a $1.8 billion drug network. Fentanyl labs, corrupted cops, underground bunkers. What they found will shock.
At 4:47 a.m. on February 9th, 2026, under the dim amber glow of streetlights along Biscayne Boulevard, a line of unmarked vehicles rolled to a silent stop. No sirens, no flashing lights, just the low rumble of engines cutting through the humid Miami darkness. Inside the lead SUV, a federal agent adjusted his tactical vest, eyes fixed on a 3-story warehouse with peeling paint and a faded shipping company logo. To anyone passing by, it looked abandoned, but thermal imaging told a different story. 23 heat signatures, movement on all 3 floors, and something else, a faint electrical hum that suggested far more power consumption than any empty building should have. The agent's radio crackled once. A single word, execute. Within seconds, the doors of the warehouse exploded inward. FBI agents, flanked by ICE Homeland Security Investigations units, poured into the structure with military precision. What they found in those first 90 seconds would unravel one of the largest transnational drug trafficking operations ever discovered on American soil. But none of them, not the veteran agents, not the intelligence analysts who had tracked this target for 18 months, were prepared for the scale of what lay behind those warehouse walls. Federal agents from the FBI's Miami field office, in coordination with Immigration and Customs Enforcement Homeland Security Investigations, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and Miami-Dade Police Department, announced the culmination of Operation Tidal Force, a multi-agency investigation targeting a sophisticated international narcotics distribution network operating across South Florida. The Department of Justice confirmed that the operation resulted in the seizure of over 2.8 tons of cocaine, 340 kilograms of fentanyl, 520 pounds of methamphetamine, and approximately $47 million in cash and assets. 41 individuals were arrested across Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida stated this represented a devastating blow to a criminal enterprise that has poisoned our communities and fueled violence across international borders. The investigation began not with this warehouse, but 17 months earlier in a port of Miami shipping container. Customs and Border Protection officers conducting a routine inspection of automotive parts from Colombia noticed discrepancies in weight manifests. When they used fiber optic cameras to examine the sealed engine blocks, they discovered something that made veteran inspectors pause: cavity spaces that had been professionally machined, lined with heat-resistant polymer, and packed with vacuum-sealed packages of pure cocaine. The engineering was remarkable, the concealment nearly perfect. The declared recipient, a legitimate auto repair shop in Hialeah owned by a man with no criminal record, a family, and 15 years of tax returns showing modest but consistent income. That repair shop became the thread that unraveled everything. Surveillance teams watched as mechanics worked on normal vehicles during business hours. But at 9:17 p.m., after the last customer left, a different crew arrived. They wore the same uniforms, used the same tools, but their work had nothing to do with brake pads or oil changes. Hidden cameras captured them extracting packages from vehicle components, weighing product on digital scales accurate to 1/10 of a gram, and repacking the narcotics into sealed containers that looked identical to legitimate industrial cleaning supplies. By 2:30 a.m., the shop went dark. By 7 a.m., it was open for business again, smelling of motor oil and coffee, looking like every other family-owned garage in South Florida. Investigators expected a small distribution cell, maybe a dozen people, perhaps $500,000 in product moving through monthly. What they found was an operation with the organizational complexity of a Fortune 500 company. Wiretaps revealed conversations in coded language sophisticated enough to evade initial analysis. Financial forensics uncovered shell corporations layered 6 entities deep, with registered addresses spanning the Cayman Islands, Panama, and Delaware. Digital forensics on seized phones exposed encrypted messaging applications using military-grade security protocols with self-destructing messages and biometric access controls. This wasn't just a drug operation. This was a criminal enterprise with IT departments, human resources structures, logistics coordinators, and financial officers. The more investigators dug, the darker it became. The network didn't just move cocaine. They had diversified. Fentanyl pills pressed to look identical to legitimate pharmaceuticals, distributed through corrupt medical supply chains. Methamphetamine manufactured in clandestine labs in rural Mexico, transported north through a network of long-haul truckers whose vehicles had been modified with hidden compartments built into fuel tanks and frame rails. Money laundering operations that funneled cash through cryptocurrency exchanges, real estate transactions involving luxury condominiums in Miami Beach, and even investments in legitimate businesses, restaurants, car washes, construction companies that provided both clean revenue streams and employment for cartel operatives living under false identities. But that was only the beginning. As surveillance intensified, agents identified what they initially believed was the headquarters, the Biscayne Boulevard warehouse. But wiretap intercepts revealed something that changed the entire investigation. A phrase repeated in multiple conversations: La Casa Principal. The main house. Not a warehouse. A house. Intelligence analysts cross-referenced property records, utility usage patterns, and vehicle tracking data. What emerged was stunning. A $4.2 million estate in Coral Gables with manicured lawns, a circular driveway, and a reputation in the neighborhood as the home of a successful international businessman involved in import-export. His children attended private school. His wife volunteered at charity events. He played golf at an exclusive country club. And beneath his property, accessible through a hydraulically operated floor panel in the garage, was a bunker complex that extended 30 feet underground. The real discovery came when electronic surveillance captured conversations describing the bunker's contents. Asset tracking suggested it wasn't just a storage facility. It was the operational nerve center. Financial ledgers documenting transactions totaling over $280 million. Computer servers running encrypted communications networks linking cells in Miami, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, and Atlanta to cartel leadership in Sinaloa and Jalisco. Surveillance footage from hidden cameras monitoring drop points, corrupt officials on payroll, and competitors' operations. And most disturbingly, detailed records of violence, photographs of torture, execution videos, and files documenting murders carried out against informants, rival traffickers, and anyone who threatened the network's operations. The human cost was staggering. Medical Examiner reports linked 17 overdose deaths in Miami-Dade County alone to fentanyl pills bearing the specific press markings of this network's product. Victim advocates identified 9 individuals, including 2 teenagers who had been trafficked across the border under false promises of employment, then forced into debt bondage working as couriers and stash house guards. Financial crimes investigators calculated that the laundered proceeds had distorted local real estate markets, pricing working families out of neighborhoods as criminal entities engaged in all-cash property purchases designed to obscure illicit funds. This wasn't victimless crime. Every kilogram represented addiction, overdose, broken families, and communities destabilized by violence and corruption. If this level of criminal sophistication operating in plain sight shocks you, hit that like button right now. We need to expose how these networks hide among us. Federal prosecutors spent 6 months building an airtight case. Grand juries reviewed evidence compiled from 2,400 hours of surveillance footage, 76,000 intercepted communications, financial records from 230 bank accounts across 14 countries, and testimony from cooperating witnesses who had turned against the organization. The indictments, when unsealed, detailed charges including conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, money laundering, continuing criminal enterprise, use of firearms in furtherance of drug trafficking, and immigration fraud. The sentences being sought ranged from 15 years to life imprisonment. But before any trial could begin, the network had to be dismantled, and that required a coordinated takedown of unprecedented scope. Planning for Operation Tidal Force involved over 400 federal, state, and local law enforcement personnel. Intelligence analysts created detailed tactical maps identifying 41 target locations across 3 counties. Entry teams trained for weeks on building layouts constructed from surveillance data and architectural records. Helicopter units from Customs and Border Protection air and marine operations were positioned for aerial overwatch. Mobile command centers were established in secure locations. And every participant understood the stakes. These weren't street-level dealers. These were individuals with resources, weapons, international connections, and the willingness to use violence. At exactly 4:47 a.m. on February 9, 2026, simultaneous raids commenced at 26 locations. The Biscayne Boulevard warehouse, the Hialeah Auto Shop, the Coral Gables estate, stash houses in Kendall, Doral, and Aventura, luxury apartments in downtown Miami where lieutenants lived under assumed identities, a trucking depot in Medley where modified vehicles were serviced, even a seemingly innocent food distribution warehouse in Sweetwater that served as a transfer point for northbound shipments. At the Biscayne warehouse, tactical teams encountered minimal resistance. The speed and overwhelming force left occupants no time to destroy evidence or flee. Inside, agents found assembly line operations in full swing. Workers in latex gloves cutting cocaine with diluting agents, pressing fentanyl powder into pill form using industrial presses, vacuum sealing packages, and loading them into false-bottom shipping containers labeled as machine parts destined for addresses across the eastern United States. The sophistication was remarkable. Quality control stations where product was tested for purity. Accounting desks with ledgers tracking inventory down to the gram. Security monitors showing live feeds from cameras positioned blocks away to provide early warning of law enforcement approach. Simultaneously across Miami, at 4:47 a.m. exactly, doors came crashing down. At the Coral Gables estate, the homeowner, a man known to neighbors as Marcus Delgado, import-export businessman, offered no resistance as agents secured the property. His calm demeanor shattered when hydraulic rams breached the bunker entrance. Inside that underground complex, investigators discovered what can only be described as a criminal intelligence headquarters. Walls lined with monitors displaying live surveillance feeds from dozens of locations. Server racks humming with encrypted data. Filing cabinets containing meticulous records of every shipment, every transaction, every payment to corrupted officials. And in a climate-controlled storage room, $8.2 million in cash, stacked in heat-sealed plastic bundles, alongside 340 kilograms of pure fentanyl. Enough, according to DEA analysis, to produce over 170 million lethal doses. At 6:15 a.m., as dawn broke over Miami, the last targets were secured. 41 individuals in custody. No agents injured. No suspects killed. But the evidence seized told a story more disturbing than any action movie fiction. Among the arrested, 3 law enforcement officers on the organization's payroll who provided intelligence on investigations and warned of impending raids. 2 attorneys who structured shell corporations and provided legal cover for criminal operations. A city building inspector who approved construction permits for hidden compartments and underground structures. And Marcus Delgado himself, whose real name was Miguel Ángel Restrepo, a high-ranking operative for the Jalisco New Generation cartel, with an Interpol red notice and pending warrants in Mexico, Colombia, and Spain. Type exposed in the comments if you believe these networks are operating in neighborhoods nationwide. Share this story before it disappears. The final seizure inventory read like the budget of a small nation. 2.8 tons of cocaine with an estimated street value of $84 million. 340 kilograms of fentanyl valued at approximately $136 million given its extreme potency and lethality. 520 pounds of methamphetamine worth $12 million. $47 million in currency, jewelry, luxury vehicles including 5 Lamborghinis, 2 Ferraris, and a custom armor Mercedes. 32 firearms including fully automatic weapons, armor-piercing ammunition, and a cache of grenades. 23 properties across South Florida, Texas, and California, with combined valuations exceeding $31 million. And perhaps most valuable of all, for encrypted servers containing communications records linking this cell to cartel leadership, distributors in 18 states, and a network of international suppliers and money launderers operating on 4 continents. Forensic accountants who analyzed the financial records estimated the organization moved between $40 million and $60 million in narcotics monthly. Over its approximately 3-year operational span, that suggested total trafficking proceeds potentially exceeding $1.8 billion. The money flowed through an intricate web, bulk cash smuggled south across the border in vehicle compartments identical to those used to smuggle drugs north, wire transfers fragmented into amounts below reporting thresholds, cryptocurrency transactions through privacy-focused exchanges, trade-based money laundering schemes involving over-invoiced imports and under-invoiced exports, and real estate transactions structured to obscure beneficial ownership. Every dollar represented demand. Every transaction represented American users. Every pipeline represented poison flowing into communities from Miami to Maine. The human stories emerged as prosecutors prepared cases. A 19-year-old woman from Honduras who had been promised restaurant work in the United States, only to find herself trapped in a stash house, forced to guard product under threat of violence against her family back home. a 34-year-old courier with 3 children who had been recruited with promises of $5,000 per delivery, then threatened with exposure and arrest when he tried to quit after realizing what he was transporting. A mother in Broward County who buried her 22-year-old son after he took what he believed was a Percocet for back pain. It was a counterfeit pill pressed with fentanyl from this network's production line. He died within 90 minutes, alone in his apartment, while his phone showed unanswered texts from his mother asking if he was coming to Sunday dinner. The scope extended far beyond Florida. Seized communications revealed distribution cells in Atlanta coordinating with this Miami hub, connections to Chicago and Detroit networks, suppliers in Sinaloa and Jalisco directing operations from fortified compounds in Mexico, Chinese chemical manufacturers providing fentanyl precursors shipped through intermediaries in multiple countries to evade international controls, money launderers in Panama and the Cayman Islands who never touch drugs but move millions through financial structures so complex that tracing beneficial ownership required artificial intelligence-assisted forensic accounting. This wasn't a Miami problem. This was a transnational criminal industry with supply chains, logistics networks, and operational security rivaling legitimate multinational corporations. Federal prosecutors announced that 18 of the arrested individuals faced charges carrying mandatory minimum sentences of 10 years to life. Miguel Ángel Restrepo, along with 4 top lieutenants, were charged with operating a continuing criminal enterprise, the so-called Kingpin statute, that carries a mandatory minimum of 20 years and potential capital punishment in cases involving deaths resulting from distributed narcotics. Extradition requests were filed for 7 cartel operatives identified in communications, but located in Mexico and Colombia. Asset forfeiture proceedings targeted every property, vehicle, and financial account linked to the organization. And perhaps most significantly, the 3 corrupted law enforcement officers faced federal charges of conspiracy and acting under color of law to facilitate drug trafficking, charges that carry enhanced sentences and represent a profound betrayal of public trust. If you believe this story exposes threats most people never see, hit subscribe and share this video. The algorithms bury investigations like this. But beyond arrests and seizures lies a more troubling truth. Operation Tidal Force dismantled one network, one organization among hundreds operating across American soil. The DEA estimates that over 200 significant transnational criminal organizations maintain operational cells within the United States. The fentanyl seized in this single raid represented less than 1% of the estimated annual flow into the country. The $47 million in cash seized represents perhaps 3 weeks of revenue for an organization of this scale. And for every corrupted official arrested, investigators know others remain hidden, providing intelligence, protection, and legitimacy to criminal enterprises trading in human suffering. The Coral Gables estate, once home to a criminal kingpin, now sits empty, seized by federal authorities, its underground bunkers sealed with concrete. The Biscayne Boulevard warehouse has been sanitized, its equipment destroyed, its walls stripped of the infrastructure that facilitated industrial-scale drug production. The Hialeah Auto Shop remains closed, yellow crime scene tapes still fluttering in the Miami breeze. But drive through these neighborhoods today, and you'll see life continuing as if nothing happened. Children walking to school, families eating at restaurants, people going to work. And somewhere, hidden among the normalcy, another network is establishing itself. Another operation is moving product. Another organization is corrupting officials, trafficking poison, and destroying lives, all while looking exactly like every other business, every other home, every other face in the crowd. The question isn't whether law enforcement can win this fight. The question is whether we're willing to acknowledge how deeply these networks have embedded themselves into American society. They aren't shadows lurking at the margins. They're operating businesses, owning properties, and living among us with resources that rival state governments. They adapt faster than enforcement agencies. They exploit legal protections designed for legitimate commerce. And they count on our complacency, on our belief that these problems exist somewhere else, affect someone else, threaten someone else's children. Like this video right now if you believe this information needs to reach every community. Comment, exposed, so the algorithm knows this matters. And subscribe because stories like this, stories that reveal the infrastructure of criminal empires hiding in plain sight, need to be told. Share this before it's buried, because the most dangerous networks aren't the ones we know about. They're the ones we haven't discovered yet, operating in the warehouse down the street, this state in the nice neighborhood, the business with the friendly owner who waves hello every morning. What else is hiding behind the facades we trust?